Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Fylde Council Cabinet Evening. And first of all, can I ask, are there any declarations of interest? None. Thank you. Can I move to item 2, which is the confirmation of minutes for the 25th of June. Are we all in favour of that?
Yeah.
Thank you, to be sure. Thank you. I'll sign them. And can I ask the Chief Exec of any urgent items?
No urgent items this evening, Chairman.
Thank you. Which just takes us to the agenda proper. And just before I start, might I just say that we are a little thin on the ground this evening because Councillor Little is on annual leave, and unfortunately Councillor Fiddler is indisposed. He has a medical problem that stops him being in attendance here tonight, so we all wish him well. Thank you. Item 4 is the Policy Development Scrutiny Committee recommendations on page 12. And good evening, Councillor Wilson.
Good evening. Good evening. I have 3 sets of minutes for you. From the 4th of June, the 18th of June, and the 10th of September. The 4th of June was a request for recovery of a decision on the Fylde Coast Strategic Housing Market Assessment. The call-in was rejected, although subsequently the portfolio holder did make changes. Also, now on the 18th, we looked at the action update on the corporate plan, and it was agreed to update the actions and recommend those actions to the Cabinet. We did look at the performance exemption report, and as you will see in your agenda papers, we requested some changes to some of those performance measures, some that were no longer applicable, and there have been so many changes with what is expected. So these, we approved those changes and recommended them to the Cabinet. We also looked at the medium-term financial strategy, general fund review, capital program, and treasury management financial outturn position for 2013 and 14. And the committee had no further recommendations or comments to make and agreed the report to be considered by the Cabinet at its meeting on the 25th of June. Now we will go to September the 10th. We looked at the general fund budget monitoring report on the position of a quarter that ended on the 30th of June, and we noted the updated position. Since this was a first quarter, any concerns would probably be taken care of, and we'd all be right on target by the time we got to like the 2nd or 3rd quarter. We looked at the Homelessness Strategy Action Plan update, and we had recommended the action plan to the Cabinet. We wanted to see an extension of the pilot policy to discharge the homelessness duty into the private rented sector for a further 12 months. And the continuation of the face-to-face YMCA drop-in service, as is detailed in the report, and to acknowledge the importance of the no second night out service, particularly through the winter months, and to support the use of existing resources within the homelessness budget to fund the service from October 2014 through March 2015, so that we can protect homeless during those very cold winter months. We were also given a report on the Antisocial Behavior Crime and Policing Act of 2014. That's where the ASBO is being replaced by this new policy. And we recommended to the Cabinet to delegate the power to take any action under the Antisocial Behavior Crime and Policing Act 2014 to the Chief Executive and the Director of Resources following consultation with the portfolio holder for social well-being, and to agree to the relevant bodies for filed adopting the draft threshold for the number of qualifying complaints for the purposes of instigating the procedure, and that the operation of the provisions of the Act in relation to this be monitored for 6 months and reported back to the members, and to implement the actions outlined in paragraph 29 of the report and undertake the development of an antisocial behavior policy, which follows the guidance provided by the Home Secretary and that is submitted to members for approval and publication. We also had a request for recovery of a decision regarding employment land evidence base update. The call-in request was not accepted. It was defeated. And so the employment land evidence base update would therefore be implemented as per the portfolio holder's decision. I hope not.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Before I propose accepting these, I've got a few questions. On the homelessness strategy,
Yes.
action plan update, I note on point 2 a suggestion that we extend that pilot for a further 12 months to discharge homeless duty into the private rented sector. Can you recall how many were taken up, if any, at all?
Actually, no, I don't. I think Lucy Wright would be able to give you that information.
All right, thank you. I'll take it up with her. I think the concern was that because the tenancies granted had to be no less than 12 months, that it would be difficult to persuade private landlords to take.
That's correct.
Yes,
That's
yes.
correct. My feeling is probably that it has not been used a lot, but which is why they would like to extend just to see what happens.
Okay, thank you. The other queries is regarding the Antisocial Behaviour Crime and Policing Act and the recommendations to Cabinet to delegate power.
Yes.
And I had some questions over that because I wanted to know, it says, it's very broad in the papers.
Yes,
it says
it is.
to delegate power to take any action under the Antisocial Behaviour Crime and Policing Act. Any action, and looking at the papers, I was unsure of what those actions were and did raise queries about this. And I think Tracy Morrison was able to give some guidance as to what those powers were and that would help us to consider these recommendations. Am I right, Chairman?
Yeah.
I don't know whether Tracy can assist.
I've got the information.
Yeah. Chief Exec has the information.
Yeah, I don't mind come over. Oh, it's on. Thanks. Yeah, I've got an update on this one. There's a number of new powers which are called the Civil Injunction and the Criminal Behaviour Order. They're two new powers, and they replace existing antisocial behaviour orders which are already delegated to officers. And the Community Protection Notice is the third new power, and that covers litter clearing notice, defacement removal notice, I'd have to research in more detail what that is, and street litter control notices, which again they're already delegated to officers. So those three new powers cover existing delegated powers.
The
They're just
defacement is vandalism
I thought about
to public property.
the other new power. There's two other new powers which are not currently delegated. One's called a closure power, and this is for crack house closure order. I'm not sure how many of those we've got in file. Hopefully none. And a premises closure order. And these are related to help speedily deploy an immediate problem. And it's recommended that they are delegated to officers. However, the other new order, public space protection order, covers alligating, dog control orders, and designated public space orders. And it's recommended that the power to make public spaces protection orders is not delegated to the officers, because these orders impose new legal restrictions on activities on land covered by them, and they should be fully discussed and debated by elected representatives. So the others largely cover existing delegations. The closure power, which is a new one which brings in some additional delegation to officers, is really about closing places down quickly that are undesirable. But the public spaces protection order, it's recommended that that one is not delegated. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Chelford?
Thank you, Chairman. You did mention about dog control orders and welfare, because it's high on the list of complaints in the borough. What does it bring? Which changes does it bring in dog control orders?
It has to do, what it has to do with is public complaints. If there's so many complaints about something within a certain amount of time, then we have the powers to impose fines, restrictions, all kinds of things under this act, because it falls under this new antisocial behavior. And if you look in your papers, you'll see how many complaints from the public during a certain amount of time. There's like 2 or 3 different ways, and then we have the power to act against those. And as for the, on one of them, which is the one about land, if there is an area that is particularly vulnerable to some kind of an issue with a certain amount of complaints and things about that area, that is an area then that could be taken into consideration to have the new order in place. Which would mean things like dogs couldn't be off lead, or they couldn't be in the area, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Councillor Buckley?
Well, I'm happy to propose we accept the recommendations, save for those powers mentioned by the Chief Exec. I wanted to know what are these actions that are going to be delegated, and it seems that many are, we already have them, and they're just rebadged.
Yeah, it's to have them under the new policy, yes. the same things that were delegated under the old ASBO to be under this new regulation. Since the ASBO goes out and these regulations take their place, it's to just have the continuity of the same delegated authority as we had to officers with the old powers, basically.
I have no problem with that whatsoever. It's these new suggested powers that it does seem right that those would be debated if we want to bring in, say, dog control orders, that we should debate that. So happy to propose those recommendations, save for those mentioned by the Chief Exec. Were they called community protection?
Yeah, they were called the public spaces protection orders.
So save for public protection.
And that's the one that we don't want to be delegated.
Yes.
Okay, so proposed by Councillor Buckley and seconded by Councillor Chelford. Are we all in favour? Thank you. And can I thank you again, Councillor Wilson. Obviously three meetings to report, so a little bit of homework, so thanks very much indeed. Community Focus Scrutiny Committee. Councillor Mulholland, how are you? How's the...
I'm very well, thank you.
How's the hip?
Well, getting there.
Good lad.
Thank you. You're doing well. Okay, well, I'll be a lot quicker because I've only got 2 meetings, not 3.
Okay.
The meetings of the 12th of June and the 24th of July, Chairman. The meeting of the 12th of June, we dealt with a review of the webcasting arrangements. You can see, I'm not going to read it out to you. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But you can see the recommendations there. We thought it appropriate for possibly looking at the potential for a training programme, because the Chief Exec pointed out that the people that do it out of the guns to the heart. They're not trained to do it, you know. We have had hiccups, and you know, so I think it's right to offer to relevant staff some training, and basically to keep an eye on it, to keep looking at this, and to see if we can. I know the Chief Exec put an email out saying that, you know, with the new alterations, it's maybe something that we can start looking at.
Yes.
Then there's a file community. The updated report from the 2030 Vision for Health and Care in Filed. We had them again. Basically, it was just an update, just that the report be noted. There were concerns expressed, as there were the first time, but it's still early days, and we still need to see how it rolls out. File Community Safety Partnership. Again, nothing particularly came up to be of concern, so it was just a note of the report. 24th of July, we had the Citizens Advice Bureau. Again, nothing on the radar for us to be concerned about, so again it was a case of just a report to be noted. The annual report from the Lowther Garden Trust. It's doing very well. It's got to be said, it's doing very well. There was a slight issue, and I asked the question, had all the things been put into place from our previous recommendations with regard to governance, etc. And whilst it hadn't, we were given assurances that they're on with it, and they should be in place by the end of 2014.
That's good.
Which is good. Again, we were quite happy with that. The last item was the review of the Filed Arts collection. As you know, there's been a working group looking at this, which I've actually not been a part of. My vice chairman, Christine, took that working party. I must say, when I first followed its progress and read it, I thought it was a bit of a non-event. But when it came to scrutiny, I realised it had to be explained to me, I've got to say, but I realised it was quite a piece of progress, this, because our collection has all sorts of complications, because the way it's been acquired has been piecemeal from bequests, etc., and much of it is covered by different conditions and legislations, and you know. So before we can do anything, we do need to you can see the recommendation, which is
I think it's also appropriate at this stage, Councillor Mulholland, that the arts collection is actually on the main agenda. So I think it would be appropriate if we brought that forward to coincide with your.
It probably would, Chairman, because obviously one of the main parts of the recommendation is the idea of going away and doing a piece of work to find how we can a mechanism for legally going into this new framework, a new partnership, and to enable us to deal with the art collection in terms of a single policy as opposed to different bits of legislation.
Absolutely.
So it is, we actually did put a time limit on that as well, to try and not leave it too open-ended, and we asked officers to report back with suggestions of how that would be done and what the mechanism would actually be by December. So it's not like we're in any way looking to hold this up. If it comes back to scrutiny in December, we would hope to have it straight back to you the first meeting after that. And I would hope to make some serious progress in terms of the future of our collection.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chairman.
At that point, can I thank you very much for the work that you've done with regards to community focus and the items that you've raised. Thank you very much indeed. And it now might be appropriate to bring the Arts Service Review forward, which is on page 85 of the agenda. Mr. Walker.
Would you like me to stay for this, Chairman?
By all means, you can.
Thank you, members. I think Councillor Mulholland has done quite a good job of giving you a reasonable summary
Absolutely.
of where his committee got to with this item. Attached with your papers tonight is a detailed report which sets out the process which the Task and Finish group followed. The portfolio holder has followed this progress quite with some interest and has attended all the meetings. And the report does conclude with the view that the collection should be retained and we should look at how we can manage and operate the collection more positively and have some certainty as to our actions as a council. And as the Chairman mentioned, one of the recommendations is that we seek a piece of work to look at the provenance of each piece of the collection and also to set out the objectives as to what the council is seeking to achieve in the management of the collection, to try and give the collection some focus, and then to move forward with the declaration of the courts to then give some protection, some shroud to the collection for us to manage it in the future. That's a key recommendation, Chairman.
Just so that I get the procedures absolutely correct here, are there any comments on the focus as reported by Councillor Mulholland to review the art collection to not go proposed by Councillor Pounder, and I'm delighted to second the item. So once again, Councillor Mulholland, thank you very much indeed for the work. And I am also particularly very pleased to see the work done by your committee and the Vice Chairman with regards to the arts collection, because I was very, very fully aware that in the past there has been nothing to actually say what our collection is, and it needs looking after, and there didn't seem to be any procedure, any plan, any progress, or any thoughts for protecting this collection. So I'm delighted that that's going to happen. Any questions with regards to the item on page 85 and the arts service that Paul Walker has asked?
I think Chairman, Councillor Bill Thompson might be turning from your previous comments, might be just doing a bit of a rustle, because there have been pieces of work done over the years and an attempt to catalogue, an attempt to, but of course there are lots of complications, and I think the beauty of what the proposal is would simplify that greatly, would simplify the whole thing, and I see that very much as a starting point to move forward.
Well, I agree, and I thank you. I wasn't looking to be critical. I wasn't looking to be critical of anybody. I could only pick up perhaps the daunting task of knowing what the art collection was has resulted in no particular outcomes. But I'm delighted that we might now be pressing forward for an outcome. Councillor Fazakerley.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm really pleased that this has been brought to, well, first of all, the Task and Finish, the community focus Scrutiny Committee and their subsequent Task and Finish group, because although there has been work done in the past, as has just been alluded to, this has been a major piece of work. And I think in conjunction with this work, we need to acknowledge the lifting of the profile, if you like, of the Lytham St Anne's art collection by Margaret Race and her friends of the collection, who have really done some excellent work over the years and very intense work over the past couple of years, particularly with their Tagging the Treasures project, which is continuing, and that is a huge piece of work which they are undertaking with great vigour and great enthusiasm. And they deserve the thanks of this council for this work on this wonderful collection that we own. I would just like to comment, having been away for a couple of weeks and I haven't really seen this room since it's been redecorated, but I think the pieces that have been selected to be displayed in the reception room now are absolutely super, and some I've never seen. For example, this lovely picture on the left with the deer or whatever it is, Bambi. It looks like Bambi. It really is charming, and I think Mr. I can never remember this guy. Not Gillett. What's his name? The man from who looks after the art collection, whose name I always forget. Jeff Willits. I always want to call him Gillett. Jeff Willits has been mainly responsible for the choice of pictures, and I think he's done a smashing job. And I'm sure that everybody who visits this reception room as we come up towards the festive season will comment on particularly the pieces that haven't had wide exposure in the past. That's all I wish to say. Thank you, Chairman, and it's my pleasure to propose this if there are no more questions.
Councillor Buckley.
I'll just comment on the financial aspects, if I may. It comes to the timing. I note that whilst it says in the report that there's no financial implications at this stage, clearly there are foreseen, possibly in the future, when there's a mention of a post.
Self-financed.
So I flag that up now, but also if there are to be financial implications to be considered, then of course the timing of those will come into play for consideration for budget rounds. So I know you say that it's not envisaged that it will be a long time before this comes back again, but those kind of considerations must also play in if there are to be any financial implications. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No more than we would have come to expect from Councillor Buckley.
I think, Chairman, we were aware of there not having to be financial implications, and that anything would have to be self-financing and have to work on that way. But I was tempted to put a request in that if we do have to dispose of anything, I would like us to sell the fox hunting one with the Planet of the Apes man on the horseback. Because after looking at that for 22 years, I don't know how I've kept my hands off it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, this has been proposed by Councillor Fazackley, and I also endorse the comments of Councillor Fazackley and the thanks to go to the people who are responsible for this report and all the work with regards to the art. And it clearly is an example when we refer to a piece of art that nobody has ever seen. And I hope I can choose my words carefully and say for the number of years that you've been a councillor Fazackley, and this has been within the filed art collection, really endorses what I was saying before, because it's depriving the public from actually seeing something, and that's the whole point. And I'm delighted to second this item. So are we all in favour? Thank you very much indeed, and thank you very much indeed, gentlemen. Which now takes us to page 39 and the timetable for developing budget proposals 2015-16. And Good evening, Mr. O'Donoghue.
Good evening, Chairman. This is a report that you receive annually, which sets out the timetable for developing budget proposals for the forthcoming financial year. Hopefully the report is self-explanatory. The recommendation is that Cabinet accepts and adopts the timetable for budget setting for 2015-16. The detail of that really is set out in Appendix A on page 41 of your papers. I'll quickly run through those. There's an update of the Council's financial forecast planned to go to Cabinet and Council in November and December this year, which will set out a mid-year update of the financial position. The proposal is then for opposition briefings to be scheduled throughout the period of budget setting between November and February, for consultation to take place with town and parish councils and business rate payers ahead of a further financial update going again to both Cabinet and Council in January, after which we will have had confirmation of funding settlements for 15-16, including new homes bonus. The timetable includes then Cabinet's budget proposal meeting on the 11th of February, followed by scrutiny committee on the 19th of February, where they will be able to scrutinise those budget proposals, and the process culminates in budget council meeting on the 3rd of March. I'm happy to take any questions, Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions from members? No. Councillor Buckley?
I'm happy to propose it. It is what it is. The meeting, council budget meeting on the 3rd of March is a Tuesday, just to remind members. I think when we were talking about this, it might be in the old calendar of meetings still as the 2nd, the Monday. So maybe there needs to be just a reminder out for councillors, but it is the Tuesday, the 3rd of March. Thank you. Just happy to propose it.
Proposed by Councillor Buckley, and I'm delighted to second this. Is the same as the timetable that we've already seen. I'm just amazed that that we're round to this time of the year again. The years of my life just seem to now shoot past in the duties at Fylde Borough Council. But thank you. I'm delighted to second it. Thank you for your help. Thank you. Are you all in favour? And that takes us to page 42 and the Shared Fraud Investigation Service. And good evening, Tracy.
Good evening, Leader. Yes, as detailed within the report, since 2009, Fylde and Preston councils have been working in partnership in terms of a shared fraud investigation team. This partnership has been successful in identifying overpayments for benefits and has exceeded targets set within the service level agreement on a number of occasions. Since 2010, central government has been committed to the establishment of a national single fraud investigation service, and this will mean that with effect from April 2015, all the benefit fraud aspects of the service will transfer to this agency. The current arrangements with Preston City Council ran their course in late August of this year, and Cabinet is requested to agree an extension of the existing arrangements until the establishment of the new central government arrangements on the 1st of April 2015. As part of the discussions with Preston about the continuation of the service charge has been renegotiated, and Preston City Council has agreed a reduction in its annual charge of £20,000, which represents an 18.9% reduction in annual costs. Obviously, these savings will be pro rata, running from August until the end of March next year. In addition, the contract contract procedure rules requires that where a contract exceeds £10,000 in value, that quotation should be sought, and therefore Cabinet is also requested to agree a variation to these rules on this occasion due to the short-term nature of this arrangement, but also the specialist nature of the work. It's also worth pointing out that a further report will come back before members in due course, giving the full implications of the transfer of the work to the government and addressing the issues of how corporate and council tax fraud will be dealt with going forward. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions from members? Councillor Buckley.
Can you remind me when Universal Credit is going to be rolled out and filed, please?
Universal Credit is being rolled out with effect from the 1st of October in part, and the next report on the agenda addresses that in part. Various aspects of it are being rolled out, and I'm not sure when it's intended that full implementation will be made and filed.
Okay, thank you. It'll be a staged process, but no doubt. And it will mean that housing benefit will be wrapped up in Universal Credit, and that leaves us with council tax benefits. So even though the changes to the fraud investigation scheme, we will still retain a need to our own need to investigate fraud for council tax benefit or single household declarations, all that kind of thing. We will still have that element that we need to retain and fund.
Yes. Yeah, there will be a need to as Councillor Buckley is quite correct. So there will be a need for us to have some involvement in investigating council tax fraud. There is also a question that the £86,000 that is going to be charged. Obviously, when it does get handed over to the DWP, there will therefore be some monetary benefit in it for files along the line. But obviously, I would suggest that there'll be some way to reduce that figure.
If I might, Chairman, that's part of the further report that will come back to members, that will have the full financial implications of the transfer of the service to the DWP. You know, the financial implications of that, because as the service as a whole will not be transferring to the DWP, because the service at the current time delivers more than dealing with just benefit fraud, as Councillor Buckley has mentioned. It also deals with any council tax reduction scheme fraud issues at the moment, and deals with corporate fraud as well. So it's hoped that the transfer of the service will take into account that the council will still be left with some residual services, and the financial agreement will take account of that, and that's what we need to bring back to members with some proposals about how we will then resource those issues going forward.
That's excellent. So it's proposed by Councillor Buckley.
I'm happy to second this item, Leader.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Fazackley. All in favour? Thank you very much indeed. And thank you very much indeed, Ms. Morrison. This now takes us to page 45 and Universal Credit implementations. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair.
Good evening.
The report in front of you details the implementation of Universal Credit at File and is seeking the authority to establish the approach to provide related services and assistance both to the claimants and to the DWP. Universal Credit is the government's flagship welfare reform programme. It brings together a number of benefits, including housing benefit that is currently administered by File Council into one single payment and aims to make work pay. The related services provided by File Council and the shared service referred to in the report include assisted internet access for Universal Credit, as access will be digital by default, personal budgeting support to claimants, assisting the DWP with processing and communicating with landlords, helping
Any questions from members? Be happy with all? Councillor Trowell? I may be wrong, but I think there is also plans afoot within libraries.
That's correct.
Yes.
There'll be a number of internet access points because the Fowler one-stop shop may not be visible for everyone to travel to.
Yeah.
So there'll be libraries with internet access.
Thank you.
And also the Fowler County premises with internet access.
Thank you.
Yes, just one query, please, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor.
You talk about the first group that will be applicable for this benefit, single working age people. Is there not some proviso about people on, does that apply to people who have no need for housing support? Or does it apply to people, I'm sure I've read in this somewhere, that there's a housing proviso somewhere within this group?
I need to get back to you on details of that. I know that the single working age claimants, there's a strict criteria for people moving on to universal credit. That includes that they can't be in any debt, they can't be in any rent arrears, and they can't be in any medical health problems with them. I'm not too sure what the housing costs are, so I need to get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Buckley?
I'm very happy to propose it. New times ahead. We'll have to see how this rolls out. And certainly, I think the idea is to start with the most straightforward class of claimant first, and to make sure that we can get this right before it's rolled out. But it is really big changes, and our involvement within those changes as well. And I'm happy to note that we are there and to be able to give support. We will be, our staff will be trained, we'll be signposting where need be, and to facilitate that, because it's too big just for the job centre to cope with. So I think it's a good thing that we are involved with community at this level.
I agree, and I endorse those comments. So proposed by Councillor Buckley, and I'm delighted to second that. Are we all in favour? Thank you, and thank you, Andy, for your help. Thank you. Page 50 is the Local Government Ombudsman's report, Clifton Lytham Housing Association share sale. The Ombudsman's report has been attached and has been ready there for all to read. And with regards to the complaint that was received with regards to this share sale, the Ombudsman found that the council failed on one question, and the report has the recommendations to implement the recommendations of the Ombudsman's report, which are set out for you on the page 50. The report itself covers the three statements of the report on page 51, and the council honours its position there, accepts the decision from the Ombudsman, and carries that out. And this is the requirement to report the matter in order to provide the independent conclusion to the issue that concerns some of the residents, and provides the closure on the sale of the shares. And are there any particular questions with regards to that item? No. Well, I'll propose the item. And seconded by Councillor Buckley. Are we all in favour? Thank you. To page 64. and the education contribution relating to Section 106 agreement for land at Balham Road, Lytham. And again, Mr Walker, good evening.
Good evening, Chairman and members. This report requests that payment is made to Lancashire County Council of a Section 106 contribution that was originally paid to the Borough Council as part of a contribution towards the provision of education in relation to a particular planning application in Lytham at Hastings Point, and that was approved on the 18th of July 2012. The Lancashire County Council have requested that the monies be now paid over to them. Although this is prior to the identification of a particular scheme, they ask that the money be paid now to allow them to plan expenditure effectively for future school expansion. The money can't be used for any other purpose and will have to be repaid back to the developer if it's not used within the required timescale, which is 5 years, Chairman.
Thank you. And any questions with regards to Mr Walker? Councillor Buckley?
Happy to propose it. It's just a straightforward transaction.
Absolutely.
In and out, so happy to propose.
Yes.
I'll second that, Chair.
Proposed by Councillor Buckley, seconded by Councillor Pounder. We all in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Page 67. Flood alleviation. It's the Mr Walker show.
Thank you, Chairman. The report sets out the provision of a grant scheme which the government introduced following the winter storms over the last few months in order to increase resilience to future flood damage by the most susceptible properties in the country. The scheme itself is intended to give a grant of up to £5,000 to qualifying properties to enable them to put resilience measures in place to help prevent the cost and inconvenience of any future floods should they occur. This money can't be used to pay for any flood damage, it's simply to put in place flood resilience measures to prevent future flooding. Through DEFRA identified a number of properties that were affected by the floods in each district council area, and those properties have been made known to us and dialogue has occurred with those particular properties. There are 7 properties in file that we believe qualify for this, and we are working with those owners now to secure the grant funding for them. What this is seeking, Chairman, is that you agree that that money is managed by this authority and paid over to those qualifying properties once we receive the money from DEFRA. It's quite a good news story, this, Chairman, because we need to work and help our communities to deal with the catastrophic effects of flooding and help them put in place measures for the future.
Yes, I agree. It is a good news story to be able to try and assist people. The relatively a small number of houses that might qualify for this, but it is something that is good to see. Councillor Chalford.
Just one question, has all these 7 properties responded?
Yes, Chairman, we have been in dialogue with those 7 properties and we're working with them, yeah.
And I'd like to say congratulate really our officers on this proactive work. It's good work.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Okay. So I've got a proposal from Councillor Chalford.
I'm happy to second that.
And seconded by Councillor Buckley. Are we in favour? Thank you. Deviation. And item 12 is Operation Services on page 70. And good evening, Cathy.
Good evening, Chairman.
Good evening.
The report before you tonight highlights the key achievements of the in-house operational services team in building on the successes of the modernisation strategy. It also outlines the factors that have thrown Lancashire Waste District Collection Services into a period of uncertainty. The county has sought legal advice and will be withdrawing the cost-sharing arrangements with district collection authorities from 2018. For Fyle, this will mean a loss of £770,000 contribution towards the annual council budget. The County Council have offered to fund a lead on a Lancashire-wide review of waste collection arrangements, which could result in significant changes to collection mechanisms across the county in response to this loss of cost sharing. There may be alternate cost sharing arrangements proposed in the future, however, there is no guarantee of this. The report proposes to continue the in-house service delivery of all operational services, implementing further efficiencies at every opportunity until the review of the collection services and cost-sharing arrangements have been concluded. It is highly likely that this review will include market testing and comparison of all collection services across Lancashire, which is a task we had been intending to carry out in 2015. Maintaining the existing service provision in the short term will allow the full financial assessment of alternate delivery options, including vehicle procurement arrangements, to identify the best solution available to Fylde.
Yes, thank you. It is, this is a huge problem, and by 2018 a figure of £770,000 to come out of Fylde Council is a huge amount of money, bearing in mind the work that we have toiled with in order to look to the successes within our operations team and throughout the council to put ourselves into a better financial position. So it is going to be a huge task to challenge and be able to mitigate some of this. I can tell you that it is extremely high, as you will appreciate, on the agenda of all leaders within Lancashire, as every council will be in exactly the same position. And so there is still considerable negotiation to be undertaken with the county council in order to try to mitigate some of this huge amounts of monies that will affect every council in Lancashire. Having said that, I'm sure that in operate, and you obviously correct in again flagging this up to Cabinet this evening, but I would I'm convinced that you will have a timetable to draw between now and 2018, so it doesn't just drop on us in 2018 as a fait accompli, but we will need to be making some very, very tough decisions between now and then. Those are just my observations. Any other questions, Councillor Pounder?
Well, as the portfolio for this department, one thing you can be sure of is that we will be keeping an eye on it at all times, and as and when we get information through from any reports and things that go on with county, we will be able to adjust to the situation as it arises.
Councillor Buckley.
I think it'd be right to say that the modernisation strategy that we've gone through in the last few years with operational services has really paid dividends. We've invested in the service and replaced the fleet, and we really have seen it come on leaps and bounds. And I think that's acknowledged, and it certainly should be acknowledged. But going forward, this is concerning. This is a significant loss that foreseen to this council, and all things being equal, that we've managed to make a great deal of savings over recent years and have run surplus in our budgets over recent years. No longer with sums like this coming our way 18, 19 onwards, and it calls for us to rethink things in a substantial way. I note the recommendation that we continue in-house, because it would be folly to think to do otherwise when there's such flux, and we don't know where we'll be heading in a few years' time, and of course we'll be working towards that. I'm also mindful that we have in our capital programme going forward, some large spends in terms of the of waste management, again for replacement of fleet, which is prudent. But I think with the recommendation saying that we've to look again at this once we have a better picture and come back to Cabinet and or Council and have a look. I would like to add to this recommendation, just to be cautious, at the very end, that in any event before commitment of any capital expenditure in relation to replacement of the fleet, so that our decisions are, I've no doubt our decisions will be timely, but I just want us to be cautious, knowing that we have large capital expenditure forecast for this. So if those words can be added in any event before commitment of any capital expenditure in relation to the replacement fleet, I'd be happy with that. Thank you.
Councillor Pounder.
I can assure Cabinet that that is the intention of the department, is that whilst we know the money's there, nothing will be spent until we know A, whether we need to do it or not, and that will be the end result. Nothing will be spent until it's known whether we need to.
So a proposer?
I propose it.
Proposed by Councillor Pounder.
And I will second that, Chair.
And seconded by Councillor Fazackley. With the amendment to the recommendation. Are we all in agreement? Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed for your report, and it is going to be a busy time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Members will recall setting a capital programme budget a couple of years ago now of £85,000 to cover the cost of the relocation of the small depot on the Public Offices site. The reason for that was because of the impending sale of the Public Offices at that time, and that was to relocate the depot itself and also to improve the toilets and mess facilities at Ashton Gardens. As members are aware, the sale of the Public Offices has stalled somewhat, and so has meant that this has been put in abeyance. We are working hard to try and succeed in getting that sale moved on, and we are keeping members informed on that. The particular element to do with the improvement of the mess rooms has resulted in the mess room becoming more desperately needing investment, and the report tonight is seeking a detachment of that project in a sense, and a drawdown of £20,000 of that sum for the work on the mess rooms ahead of the other works on the remainder of the £85,000. Thank you, Chairman.
Any comments from Cabinet? No, thank you.
I'm pleased to propose this, Chairman, because I don't know how many of the Cabinet have actually been down to see the Ashton Garden mess room and facilities, but they aren't particularly wonderful. And bearing in mind the fabulous job that our Parks Department do, I mean, the Prom Gardens took my breath away when I saw them for the first time in a few weeks, earlier this week. They're really something special. So we need to look after our people, and this will, I'm sure, be greatly appreciated by the Parks team. So I'm happy to propose it.
Yes, I fully appreciate those comments, and and our staff are very much appreciated, and the Parks team do an excellent job. So we have a proposal from Councillor Fazackley, seconded by Councillor Buckley. Are we all in favour? Thank you very much indeed.
Chairman, the report summarises recent developments that have taken place at Parkview Playing Fields and seeks the agreement of Cabinet for officers to project manage the construction of a new sand and water play facility, and that the Council becomes the accountable body for the project. The report details a previous decision taken by Cabinet in 2010 when it was agreed then that the Council would act as an accountable body for a number of individual schemes and funding streams where necessary. And since then there have been a number of important capital projects delivered on parks overseen by Council staff. Members will also be aware of a debate that took place earlier this year in relation to the Scruples site, and there was 2 proposals to treat that site. In the end, the decision was taken that the Civic Society scheme should be progressed, and officers are in dialogue with the Civic Society at the moment over that detail. In the meantime, Parkview for You decided that, or felt that the scheme still was needed in Lytham, and took the step of submitting a bid for that particular scheme actually on the Parkview site. They've recently received notification that they've been successful and have commenced dialogue with officers over how that could be implemented on the site. And this report really brings members up to date with that project, with the news that they've been successful and the amounts involved, and is seeking the agreement of this council to act as accountable body for that project to deliver it at Parkview. Parks and Green Space and Technical Services team will manage that work as they've done on previous parks projects. It will be at no additional cost to this council, and as I said, Chairman, the council will act as accountable body. This is seeking your principal decision tonight. The full detail will follow further down the line in a more detailed report which will set out the full costs involved, what will be delivered, the timescales involved, and give further reassurance over the financial implications. Thank you, Chairman.
Comments from Cabinet members? Councillor Trelfall.
Thank you. I'd like to congratulate Parks for You through this council, their compassion and the way they've worked to, having got a knockback at the Scruples site, as was indicated, and this piece of funding that they've got, deserves congratulation.
Thank you. Councillor Buckley.
I just want to clarify this no additional costs to the council, and that it doesn't seem quite clear in the recommendations. Maybe it needs to be strengthened if that's the case. There's a further report to come. There's nothing to say that in that further report there'll be some detail and full financial management details. But will that not be saying the cost to this council? It's bound to create some work for our officers. I don't want to see that work detracting our office from doing other things, or it should be fully funded. So how can we guard against this being, as you say, no additional costs to the council?
Chairman, that's a very good point that's made there. As part of those detailed discussions, there may need to be a realignment of duties and that are taking place down on the site. For example, some of the maintenance of the playground requires a skilled and trained engineer to do that work, and it is suggested that the council perform that role. And what that might be is in lieu of other work currently undertaken by the council, which will then be undertaken by the trust themselves. So there'll be a realignment of duties that would have the net effect of no additional cost to the council. I'm happy tonight, Chairman, for you to put that as the caveat to this, and we will bring a detailed report back that will give you that reassurance.
Yes, I think that would give Cabinet some considerable reassurance. Thank you. Councillor Pounder.
Yeah, Mr. Walker, can I ask, it says here the management fee will be retained by the council. I assume that the management fee would cover any cost that it is to the council anyway.
Yes, Chairman, the management fee in section 15 is the fee that we would seek to derive from to cover our costs as part of the project management, yes.
There would be no cost to us then, really, in that bit?
No, there won't be.
In fact, if I read it further on, and the VAT will be recoverable as it's a council project, so in actual fact we could benefit out of it.
Yes,
we'll be able to claim the VAT back.
Well, we wouldn't benefit from the VAT, but
you would.
it would be recoverable, yes.
Any other questions? No.
Well, I'm pleased to propose this tonight, Chairman. Parkview for You seem to have the Midas touch when it comes to applying for grants. They're very, very good at it, and we must congratulate them. I do take the point about additional financial cost to this council, and I'm glad that this is going to be further clarified. But at the end of the day, I think we do need to remember that Parkview for You is a Fylde Borough Council site. It still belongs to the council. It is managed, as we all know, by the governing body on the site, but it is a Fylde site, so the enhancement of the site is an enhancement for our facilities. Let's not forget that. So with that point, Chairman, I'm happy to propose it.
Thank you very much indeed, and I endorse those comments, and thank you. Proposed by Councillor Fazakerley. And again, Parkview for You should really be commended on the amount of monies that they actually achieve in pressing forward with their ideas. £395,000 is a huge amount of money, and I'm delighted to second this. It's a good news story. Thank you.
Chairman, can I just clarify the caveat that we've all supported?
Yes.
Will be added to the recommendations.
Yes.
Something along the lines of the management of the project is to result in no additional costs to the council.
Yes. And the Chief Exec is nodding to me, so that caveat will be added.
Thank you.
And I look forward to the detailed report when it comes before Cabinet in the future. Thank you very much, Mr. Walker. Is the compliance with the Inspire Direct?
Chairman, this is another grant that we're seeking the drawdown of at no cost to the council. The report sets out what the Inspire Directive is. It's essentially a legal obligation to publish certain geographical information relating to the environment by prescribed dates. And there's a lot of, as usual with government directives, there is a lot of detail behind it which sets out more precisely what it's involved. It involves a range of public bodies that hold environmental data, and it's about making them accessible for everyone to look at and consume. In recognition of those additional burdens, the government introduced a grant scheme to help procure and implement systems to ensure full compliance with the Inspire Directive. And when the money was first received, the sum of £7,131, we were a little unsure as to exactly what this was for, and it was a pretty obscure grant line without much explanation that we needed to do some further homework on. Usually this requires the addition of some software to help make the existing information accessible. And the report tonight, Chairman, is seeking the drawdown of that sum of money to allow for the necessary expenditure on software to allow the council to comply. Just to give an idea, Chairman, of the things that this will benefit from, the council holds a fair amount of information already on different environmental aspects. And when this information is uploaded, it will give a digital mapping information in relation to things like tree preservation orders, conservation areas, allotments across the borough, all parks and open spaces and green spaces in the borough, and even listed buildings. It will give a very rich source of information at a mapping level for people to look at. Thank you, Chairman.
Any comments? Councillor Chalfont.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very happy to hear this item tonight, for this information to be shared by, in the future, so many, so I'm happy to propose it.
Thank you. So proposed by Councillor Chalfont.
I'll second it, sir.
And seconded by Councillor Buckley. We're all in favour of that. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Mr. Walker. Item 17, tablets, tablets and councillors. I don't know whether the councillors should actually be taking plenty of tablets. And I for one, for blood pressure, but we move on. And Andy, good evening again.
This is a tablet, this is a councillor, and this is a stylus, but now known as a Doppler, because some of our members thought that we were actually going to put wax tablets with styluses initially. You recall that for the last 18 months we've been carrying out a trial of, and for the last 6 months 4 members of the Cabinet have also been trialling the use of these devices, and this is what we call a bring your own device, BYOD. And we've looked at 2 areas, BYOD and also council issued devices. In doing this, I've visited North West employers meetings. There's one council in the North West that is issuing all its members with a preloaded tablet from the 1st of December and dispensing with all paper. We looked at that, and we also looked at modern practice within certain corporations. We took outside reports from specialists and experts such as the iPad Academy, and as a result we have come up with what we believe fits Fylde requirements for the future, and that is that from May 2015 each member should be given an allowance of some £300 in order to buy a device should they wish to go paperless. From this September, all members of the member development are paperless. In fact, I'm now not paper-free but paperless. And it was an interesting trial because we started with knowledge around about the Stone Age, and brought along by officers Andy Kane and I must say Ross McKelvey, without which we wouldn't be able to do this. We've now are very confident in the use of these devices for all aspects of council work. So our proposal is that Cabinet agrees this figure. It's a figure that is a round figure that will buy a reasonable device. I think Andy will be able to tell you more about that in detail, should you wish to. This thing here is an Android, and it costs about £300, so that's what we're looking at. And that from the new term, the next council, all members will have the option to take this. The result of this will be to reduce significantly the amount of paper and also the spend on issue laptops, which we're doing so far, and printers, of course, to go with it. So the second part that we look at is the savings that can be made. We calculate these at about £100–150 per member that adopts this, against what the current spend is, but also we think it'll extend the life of brown bins by about 3 months as well, the amount of paper we save. As far as training goes, we've also looked at a member induction programme using these devices, and I believe that we've only scratched the surface of the use of them, because technology is not going to go backwards, it's going to go forwards, and this is just the start for the way that we conduct business in the future. As a result, we won't provide laptops, printers, we won't send paper out, other than the fact there's an anomaly at the moment until the government changes the legislation, in that we have to send out the summons part of meetings, which is probably the first page or the first 2 pages. And once that is done, those who go paperless will have no paper at all. What we don't intend to do is that somebody's paid £300 and then goes back to paper. They've got to go yes or no and move then into the future with the rest of us. So the recommendations that are there, we ask that Cabinet approve the strategy and the implementation of it. And I also, I've never heard back from any members on how they've used the Cabinet, how they've used their tablets. It'd be interesting to hear. Thank you.
Any comments from members? Councillor Buckley?
What can I get for £300?
It depends. You could get an Android tablet for, you can pick up Android tablets now for £79 from Tesco. You could get an iPad mini for about £220, £230, along with an insurance policy or a case. So there's a range of devices you can get. The bad news is you can't buy an iPad for £300, but you can buy an iPad mini and any device underneath that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a tablet though. You may want to buy a mobile phone, you may want to buy a tablet device. Both of them will have both of them have got identical functionality.
Councillor Fazakerley.
Thank you. I am one of those Cabinet members who's been struggling with an iPad for a while now, and I have to say it has saved a lot of paper printing, particularly being able to upload documents and bring the iPad to meetings instead of paper copy. It's just occurred to me though, because I'm using it in conjunction with my laptop still, what about, you hear from constituents who write to you snail mail, and you, or I'm sure we all respond snail mail to them. We would need a printer, would we not, to print off if it was, say, not just a quick response that could be handwritten. If you wanted to send a detailed response to a constituent who wasn't on email, how do you propose that people would print those off, ready to post them?
Good question. Initially you could use the multifunction devices at the town hall. Or we could propose that you could email a letter through to the customers, the admin support team, and they will print it and post it on your behalf to the constituents.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Buckley.
It's a question to Councillor Fazakerley. Do you think there are many councillors who wouldn't have printers at home any longer still? I mean,
I'm thinking of new councillors, Councillor Buckley. I would still have my printer, but there will be people, I'm sure, who don't.
Councillor Pounder.
The only thing that's not been mentioned or doesn't mentioned in the report is whether the £300 is an annual fee or it isn't. In this day and age, I don't think anything is made to last for 4 years or 5 years at a time. And you know, whether the life of them, or are we saying you can buy one £300, but then you pay your own insurance for it for the next 3 years to ensure that it doesn't break down? That's just a question I'm asking. It doesn't seem to have been said within the paperwork here.
The report recommends one payment of £300 per term. I'm confident that if someone purchased an iPad mini, it would last 4 years.
Okay, thank you.
Until they upgrade them.
I need a proposer.
Yeah, I'll propose it.
Proposed by Councillor Pounder. Seconded by Councillor Tropo. Are we all in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Nash. And the final item this evening is the phone system upgrade.
Okay, thank you, Chair. The report in front of you details an exempt contract that was recently awarded for the upgrade of the Council's phone system. The contract procedure rules require any such decisions to be reported to Cabinet. The upgrade of the phone system was one of a number of corporate ICT infrastructure projects Council have agreed, all to be fully funded from the earmarked ICT reserve. The upgrade will allow multi-contact channels to be handled by the Council's customer service team as we move away from traditional phone and face-to-face service provision. The purchase of the upgrade was classed as an exempt contract due to the Council being limited to a single supplier due to a shared phone system with wire that can't be supported by multiple vendors, and Azuri owning our current licences, meaning they can't support third parties upgrading the phone system. Even though it is classed as an exempt contract, I'm satisfied this is on the best available terms of the Council. There was a single recommendation set out in the report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any comments from, you're happy with that?
I'll move the recommendation.
Proposed by Councillor Pounder,
And I will second that.
seconded by Councillor Fazakerley. Are we all in favour? And thank you very much indeed for your attendance, and that concludes our business tonight. And finally, could I please say to the Chief Exec, this is the first meeting that I've chaired within the new reception room, and can I please ask him to pass on the comments of Cabinet and myself on what an excellent job that's been done within this room. Be a pleasure now for us to invite people into this room and see some of the wonderful pictures that we've got. And when we get some curtains to complement the carpets and the decor, will look even better. So please pass on our very best wishes and kind regards to everybody who's taken part. Thank you.